Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Mike, geophysical therapist, and yes, I am your alternative healthcare career coach. Tonight, we're going to be interviewing Miss Lindsey Vestal. I hope I pronounced her last name right. And we're going to be talking about how to start your pelvic health practice as an occupational therapist. We'll be back in a few seconds, okay?
HelloNote is a truly therapist-friendly practice management solution with integrated EMR that will enhance workflow, efficiency, and patient care. HelloNote reduces error and allows you to spend more time with your patients. It comes integrated with billing. Claims are generated once a note is completed. You can bill with one click and a patient portal, which streamlines the patient intake process. Beautifully engineered and cloud-based for easy accessibility, the software works on all platforms. You can access patient records from anywhere. We also offer 24/7 support. HelloNote is the practice management solution that you're looking for.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, my Facebook friends. Well, I guess we are live. If you're watching live, comment live, watching on replay, comment replay. Anyway, we've got a special guest for tonight, but before we bring her in, check out hellonote.com because if you are at a private practice and then you're billing outpatient Part B or whatever you want to call that, check out HelloNote. It integrates with the billing system and everything, and it's just like kind of one-stop shop because you can also fax stuff there, and then actually getting their e-fax now from HelloNote. So check them out, hellonote.com. And of course, check out our website, alternativehealthcarecareer.com, if you want some educational CEU stuff and everything like that. And before I keep on going and bring back our special guest, you also need to check out MedBridge Education. Let me put up there, medbridgeeducation.com. Use the code alternative. You get 40% discount. Not just 10, not 20, not 30, but 40% discount. Where can you find that, right? And speaking of MedBridge, our special guest for tonight, where's she at? There you go. Let me read her bio. Lindsey, she's a graduate of NYU. She's an occupational therapist, destined to be a pelvic health specialist, according to her bio. She followed her destiny. It's very amazing. You got to follow your destiny, ladies and gentlemen. Knowing she was going to be a double-horned unicorn. Where is there such thing as double-horned unicorn? Maybe what you call beauty corn. I don't know. So not many people know what OT is, and they added pelvic health. So she's kind of confused there right now, but she has perfected her elevator speech. So now she has become the proud owner and founder of the first in-home pelvic health practice in New York City, New York. The functional pelvis run by an OT, obviously. That's her, Lindsey. Now, okay, what she does now is she teaches OT how to become a rock star pelvic floor therapist, aka double horned unicorn. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Miss Lindsey Vestal. Lindsey, where you at? There you go, Lindsey. There you go. Let me take out that thing there. So, Lindsey, could you please tell us who you are? What do you do as an occupational therapist specializing in pelvic health? What do you do?
Thank you for that really fun and warm welcome, Mike. It is such a pleasure to be here. So I'm a double horn unicorn. No one knows, not many people know, except for probably everyone in your group, what occupational therapists are. And not many people know what pelvic floor therapy is and what we do. So basically, I bridge that gap and really try to make it more accessible. And I've now gone to the point where I help other OTs learn how to enter this field because it is, I'm going to tell you right now, Mike, one of the most rewarding, fulfilling jobs I have ever had in my life.
You know what? That's so true. Sometimes we just have to go back to our passion, right? A lot of people in alternative career group, oh, I just want to get out. I want to blah, blah, blah. But if you go back to the passion, why you wanted to be a therapist again, it's going to come back. So, Lindsey, could you please tell us, so you're an OT and you're there in New York City and you started your in-home practice there. So what prompted you to become to specialize in pelvic health? I mean, do you think you qualify? Do you need certifications like that? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's kind of the Wild West, Mike. It's very much a free for all right now. There are no certifications required to be in pelvic health. You just have to have the passion and you have to demonstrate competency. So there's a lot of PT led courses out there. Some of the most premier ones you may know about are through Herman and Wallace, Tracy Scher, shout out to Pelvic Guru, has a bunch. And then I have OT Pioneers, which is the first pelvic health course online to really help OTs do this. I will say that I'm developing the first pelvic health trauma informed certification that's coming out next year. And that's not because it's necessary, but because it's foundational. If you're going to be in pelvic health, you really have to come from that trauma informed lens. And so I'm sort of bridging that gap and hoping that it becomes a foundation for OTs and PTs.
So when you say trauma informed lens, what I mean, help me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an OT, so and then so and I'm
Yeah.
not even a pelvic floor therapist. I just pretend I know how to do pelvic floor exercises, Kegels, stuff like that, adductor, leg squeezes and stuff like that. And people come in, oh, Dr. Mike, I have like pelvic incontinence. Okay, let's do some pelvic floor exercise, and then I then delegate it to my therapist. So, but how does this? I mean, how does that work? I mean, as an OT, how do you apply it in occupational therapy practice, the pelvic floor? I mean, is that yeah?
So, one of the things I love about OT and pelvic health, particularly, is that we're super functional. So, in my in home practice in New York City, I literally went to my clients' homes. I specialized in pre and postnatal people. So, I saw them where they were, oftentimes weeks after they brought home their baby. And I'm looking at the way that they're feeding their baby, right? I'm looking at the way they're bringing their carrier up their third flight stairs, third floor staircase in Brooklyn, or how they're pushing their stroller, changing their baby at the changing table, right? Really looking at life as an opportunity to rehab versus giving them 3 sets of clamshells. Let's really motivate them in the most intrinsic way possible, which is them being able to kind of resume the roles and routines that they really love and crave to be doing again, while taking on this new identity. Becoming a new parent is a transition. So it was such a privilege to be able to meet them literally where they are and turn everyday life into an opportunity to rehab their body. There's so much mindfulness and nervous system work that's actually the foundation of pelvic floor therapy. Kegels and squeezing that part of the body is unfortunately a little bit outdated. We're really finding that due to the very intimate part of where this part is in our body, it's associated with safety, our identity. And so to really feel at home and be relaxed and be strong in our core and our pelvic floor, it really does come back to feeling safe and being kind of at home in your body again.
What's funny you mentioned about that it's outdated, and I don't know if it was in our alternative career group and somebody had mentioned pelvic floor, and I was recommending some exercises. Of course, just as a PT, okay, let's do this, and then in one random pelvic floor therapist told me, hey, Michael, I think you're just irritating that pain more, and I'm like, I think she's correct.
Yeah.
Because I was just trying to help, keep doing Kegels. So,
Yeah.
are there any studies now? I mean, obviously, yeah, right. Evidence-based studies that incorporates with OTs. I know PTs, right? But
Yeah, they're starting to come out more and more.
Mhm.
So, because I've had close to 900 students go through my programs, I'm
Wow.
associated with a lot of researchers and a lot of students who are getting their OTD and are starting to study and make the pelvic floor part of their capstone. I'm actually involved in a project right now with a student who's looking at trauma-informed care and pelvic health. So it's coming out. It's slow. It's a slow churning machine, but we're not going to stop because again, this is a part of the body that we don't talk about, right? It's taboo dinner topics that profoundly impact our quality of life and our sense of well-being, right? It's essential to wellness and our desire to participate in everyday activities. I mean, we toilet more times per day than we dress or bathe. And so it's an essential ADL. And so it's just important that we get the message out there that there's hope, there's optimism, there's things that we can do to get better.
You keep on mentioning trauma-informed care.
Mhm.
What is really trauma-informed care for those people who not really informed like me, could you please share me what is it really? Is it like a holistic approach? Is it just because if I had trauma, both physically, emotionally, mentally? I mean, how does that work? So,
Well, so unfortunately, the statistics behind any sort of sexual abuse is 1 in 3.
mm,
I'm particularly speaking about women here, and so I would venture to say that people who have pelvic floor issues, that statistic is probably much higher. And even if you have a client that has not had that trauma in the past, a
mhm,
lot of our sense of, again, well, feeling centered, feeling at ease in our body and in our world really does come back to sort of our pelvis and the center of our being. And so many people store emotions there. So,
yep,
you hear of jaw clenchers, right? So we've got people who kind of like raise their shoulders and clench their
uh-huh,
jaw. Well, there is a connection there between TMJ, or a tight pelvic of tight jaw, and a tight pelvic floor. So somebody that's walking around clenching out of not feeling safe, not feeling comfortable, or just maybe a weak core, because our pelvic floor is part of our core system. And so, kind of like those butt grippers or belly grippers, they're kind of squeezing everything out of safety, protection, or trying to feel stable. And so regardless of the situation, it does come down to the nervous system and feeling settled and safe there. And so if we start there with the pelvic floor, it's incredible. It's incredible how much actual less invasive techniques we have to do. So the gold standard for pelvic floor therapy does include internal exams, and very often that's very helpful. But I have to say, the longer I practice, Mike, and because after New York City, I was living in Paris for a few years, and I got to see how they practice over there. And it's very biomechanical, it's very biofeedback driven, and it really enabled me to kind of step back into those OT roots and see it for this nervous system approach. So again, this is that trauma centered care where we're really hearing the client, we're paying attention to little t or big T trauma. And we're not asking about the trauma explicitly. That doesn't matter. It's more of a sense of safety and well-being that we're imparting. And I truly believe that if we're going to be working with this part of the body, that's a necessity.
that's so true. That's so true. I like what you said about the nervous system because I explain this all the time to my patients that we are, our body, it's a nervous system, central nervous system, and then you have this fight or flight, which is their sympathetic nervous system, and you got the rest and digest, which is the parasympathetic. When we have trauma, both physically, mentally, emotional, spiritual trauma, you trigger that sympathetic nervous system, and that sympathetic nervous system not just only fight or flight on your brain, it also goes fight or flight on your heart. That's why you develop, heart disease, high
Mhm.
blood pressure, tachycardia, whatever you want to call that. Well, guess what? Your muscles too goes on the fight or flight. Well, guess what? Your pelvic floor, those are muscles too. And if you specialize something there, I mean, you can specialize in whatever, alternative career group, you can uh specialize in the heart, right? Okay, they can do some mental or in the brain, mental health, relax. OT does that.
Mhm.
And guess what? Pelvic floor is a muscle, and you need to learn how to facilitate or inhibit that nervous system. You could facilitate the parasympathetic or kind of inhibit or deregulate the sympathetic nervous system. And this is where Lindsay's program comes in, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to learn about how to do that, because I know Tracy teaches that
Mhm.
in her pelvicguru.com, and I attended her class and everything, but she's a physical therapist. Now, if you're an OT and you want to learn how to start your own pelvic health practice as an OT, you reach out to Lindsay. She's amazing. So, Lindsay, let me ask you this. So you mentioned about a mom was taking care of of her baby. So is there any certain age range that you guys can specialize? Geriatric, a newborn mom, new birth, whatever you call that, a mom that just gave birth, or a 45 to 50. I mean, is there any age range that you can treat patients like this?
Mike, before I answer that question, after listening to you talk about the nervous system and the pelvic floor, are you sure you're not a pelvic floor therapist? Because you could have fooled me.
Well, I mean, I teach that in the Alzheimer's class. So, I kind of touch on that nervous system when we teach the Alzheimer's and dementia class too. So
Love
it
that.
encompasses
I
basically.
love
So
that.
you're right.
I love
Mhm.
that. Well, so to answer your question, it is applicable to all genders, all ages. If you have a pelvis, you have a pelvic floor. And if you have a pelvic floor, we can help you. So what's crazy
How
is
about
that,
men like me?
pardon?
How about men like me? Are there any OTs who also specialize in men? Because I
Yes.
would be shy. I'm not really shy. I mean, I'm not shy, but I would be at least kind of embarrassed talking to, a female therapist. I would rather go to a male therapist, male OT or
Mhm.
PT. Hey, man, I'm having this issue. So are there any male OTs that does this?
Just today on my podcast, which is called OTs for Pelvic Health, I interviewed Ivan Hardcastle, who specializes in pediatrics. He's a male OT specializing in pediatrics, and he is a riot. I met him at the Western Regional OT Symposium in Las Vegas last month. We were both giving a talk there. And so, yes, they're out there. And I think one of the things that's the biggest myth is, right, most people associate pelvic floor therapy with leaking urine. And so what do we think about when we think about that? We think about older people, right? We think about people who just had babies. The fact is, even athletes experience incontinence. So urinary incontinence during sports is a concern for even young athletes. There's a recent research article that came out that said 48.8% of adolescent female athletes are experiencing urinary incontinence. Birthing individuals, I think it's 2 out of 3, but only 1 in 8 seek help. All genders, pediatrics, LGBTQI plus, I mean, everybody. And the thing is, we can make such simple shifts, Mike, in our roles, habits, and routines that make a profound impact. So we can look at behaviors, simple things. The best do the basics better. How much water are you drinking? Are you properly hydrated? So much of that goes back to constipation. Are you having enough fiber? Do you actually know that your bladder is meant to accommodate urine? So you shouldn't pee within the first few moments of feeling that urge. So it's optimal to pee once every 2 to 4 hours. Let your bladder fill up. Let those muscles expand. Send a message up the spinal cord so your brain alerts you it's time to use the restroom. So let's stop going just in case. These really simple shifts make a profound impact. So it really starts with education and empowering our clients.
Amazing. I mean, I'm just really, happy about this because just the pelvic health practice alone, there's so much niche in there.
Yeah.
You already mentioned pediatric. I don't know what the pediatric, but my wife, me and my wife, we're like in our 40s.
Mhm.
She
Me
gets,
too.
every now and then she'll get some urinary incontinence or urgency,
Yeah.
and when she's coughing, and with the advent of COVID, ladies and gentlemen, you listen to this. With the advent of COVID, or regardless, whatever you believe in COVID, uh, with the advent of that, people are coughing nowadays. They got pulmonary issues. They're coughing, pneumonia, bronchitis, COVID, and then yes, they're coughing, but they're actually having some little accidents,
Yeah.
and that's another niche there.
Yeah.
Another niche is obviously male clients,
Mhm.
people who lift weights. I'm
Yes.
sure
Yes.
there are a lot of weightlifters who are kind of embarrassed to explain it to their providers, therapist or nurse practitioner or physician. So you just position yourself like what Lindsay is doing, and then you run with that niche, and then boom. I have a question here, Lindsay. So when you were doing private practice in New York, um, I'm sure you're going to answer this. How much does a visit cost? For example, I'm a patient or a client. Hey, Dr. Vestal or Lindsay, how much does it cost me? How long would the treatment is?
Mhm.
The frequency and duration. How does that work?
Mhm. So in New York City, I was private pay. And I was private pay because I wanted to see my clients in their homes. A 90-minute evaluation to me was a prerequisite. I needed to start to build that therapeutic relationship. And that is such an important part of pelvic floor therapy. So I was indulging. I loved it. I loved my 90-minute evaluations. Mike, I charged $450 for a 90-minute evaluation. My 60-minute
You just
treatments.
lost me there.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Oh, I was just saying that in New York City, my evaluations were 90 minutes, and I was private pay. I really wanted to build that therapeutic relationship with my client. To me, that wasn't going to be 30 minutes. I really wanted to spend that full 90 minutes with them. I charged $450 for that service. This was New York City. It's a different beast there, I will tell you.
Yep.
And then my treatments were 60 minutes, and they're $350.
Still. It's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, are you listening to this? If you're listening or in the replay or on the YouTube or whatever, it's doable. Whether you're in a big city or a small city. I am in a very small city here. And yes, we're not able to charge $350 and $450, but we do have, we charge cash too for our private sessions. So it is not pelvic floor, but therapy sessions. So you just have to find that niche, ladies and gentlemen, and then you go from there. So Lindsey, so you mentioned you go to their homes. I love the 90-minute evaluation. Most of my evaluations are like that. And you know what? To be honest, ladies and gentlemen, the clients appreciate it because they are willing to pay if they see the value.
That's right.
If you're the type of therapist that comes in like 10, 15 minutes, do the bare minimum, don't even talk to Lindsey. But if you're that type of therapist that wants to give the best to your clients and you want to be the best for yourself, go reach out to her, because this is not really for those mediocre therapists. This is, don't give the therapy profession a bad name. But if you want to be the best and, provide a good one, there are therapists who does a good treatment in 20, 30 minutes. But if you want to be the go-to person in your profession or in that niche, you gotta reach out to Lindsey. So Lindsey, where can they reach you? Where can they find you? When would be your next class? And help us find our alternative career, right?
I've got a lot of really fun stuff coming up this year for my class, OT Pioneers Introduction to Pelvic Floor Therapy for Occupational Therapists. Doors actually open April 24th through the 28th. Now, it is 100% self-paced with lifetime access, but it does come with 4 group mentorship calls, which is why it's only open a couple times a year. So you can just go to my website, functionalpelvis.com, and you can check out the information there. The other really fun projects I have coming up is I'm publishing a book this year on case studies in pelvic health by occupational therapists. So we can see what's possible. And it's going to be through so many different treatment approaches. We're going to look at it from a movement lens. We're going to look at it through that nervous system. We're going to look at it through the biomechanical, right? It's going to be so many different ways so that when you open up this book and you look at it, you go, there is not one way to do this. I can really give myself permission to step into whatever treatment protocol I feel authentic to, and I'm going to treat that way. Really, the pelvic floor field is the Wild West. That's good and bad. It appeals to someone like me who's very much an entrepreneur at heart and really likes to lead authentically by kind of following the way that I think I can serve my client the best. It comes with drawbacks too, but that's where we are. I think with more certifications coming out, that could change. The other thing I've got coming up is last year I hosted my first virtual summit for OTs in pelvic health. This year, it'll be the 2nd annual. It's going to be in person in Phoenix, Arizona. And that's August 19th and 20th. So that's really fun. I had a MedBridge course come out about a week ago. I'm really proud of that because I feel like that's really going to inspire more and more OTs to know what's possible. And then lastly, my husband is actually the one who helps OTs start their own private pay practices. He was my business coach. And so he's launching his course, which is called Private Pay MBA. So he's got some great free content out there. We're both big fans of education-led marketing. So I have over 150 episodes on my Facebook page of free training. It's called OTs for Pelvic Health Facebook group. And then I've got my podcast as well. And Doug has a lot of free information as well. So it's just a great way to give it a try, see if it resonates with you, see if the way that we teach really speaks to you. And like Mike said, if it's something that calls you, I can guarantee your clients can benefit from this. And probably the way they light up when you look them in the eye and tell them there's something that could be done, they don't have to suffer, they don't have to put up with this, you will be their champion. And that there is nothing like that.
It's so true. It's all about finding that problem and finding the solution to it. And then in pointing out the problem, because once you become a good diagnostician or the people will appreciate that, and then you find the solution to that issue. They'll be like, oh, they think you're like the best therapist in the world, even though you were just really doing your job, right?
Yeah.
So Lindsay, again, thank you very much, but before I let you go, what is the biggest challenge? What was the biggest challenge when you started your pelvic health practice, and how did you turn it around, and how did you move forward?
Hmm. I would say it's my self-doubt Sally or my sense of imposter syndrome. I think that, to this day, I still have a sense of that. And part of me, I just interviewed someone today on my own Facebook group who said, who her phrase was, you can you can feel the fear and do it anyway, right? You can be brave despite that voice that you have in the back of your mind that just isn't sure. The reason I had so much doubt when I first began my private practice over a decade ago was because this is predominantly a physical therapy
Mm.
specialty, and there weren't many OTs doing it. And so I had to really listen deep to that inner voice and really try to even get my first job, because HR was just kicking my resume out wherever I sent it because I didn't meet that base requirement of being a physical therapist, despite having have gone through coursework and had experience. So I think that just kind of listening to that inner voice, despite it not being heard by the world or being matched by any environment you find yourself in, really listening to that calling and finding a way. So I eventually did get hired by someone, and it was someone who deeply believed, a physical therapist who deeply believed in the biopsychosocial approach of OTs. So I saw all of the bowel clients. So I saw constipation, I saw fecal incontinence, because very often when you're wrestling with those issues, there's a lot of vulnerability. There's a
Mhm.
lot of mental health issues that you're struggling with. And OTs, we have a strong background in that. So luckily she gave me my start. And then when I moved to New York City, I couldn't get a job despite my experience. So guess what? I became an entrepreneur. I opened up my own business, which was the most rewarding thing I could have ever done, because I now had occupational choice, meaning I could see my clients for 90 minutes. At my old job, the director didn't even want children to come to the office. We were explicitly telling our clients, please don't bring your children, find childcare. To me, this was a major miss. In order to really adopt a true client-centered care, let's bring the children into the therapy session, right? Like, they're going to be lifting their children and leaking urine, so let's get those kids involved. So I got to really draw up the way I thought I could serve my clients the best. And I had just started my family at that time. So guess what? I could choose my hours, right? I could still be class parent. I could still go to a 2:00 performance. Maybe I was working later that night, but you know what? That was my choice. And that was pure freedom to me, to be able to choose where to spend my time, and to, quote unquote, be able to do more in my life that really mattered to me.
It's funny you mentioned that. When I was on a work visa, I always ask permission to take the PTO and find coverage and everything like that. Now that we own our small little business, and then I had to bring my daughter to college and stuff like that. And it's so funny. I like, do I need to take the day off? I went home. I got sick the other day. You know that, Lindsay,
Yeah.
and I didn't have to ask permission. Hey, I want to go home early. I'm sick. Hey, I want to go out and take my daughter to whatever, watch their shows or whatever. So there is like both time and financial freedom when you start your own little practice too.
That's
All
right.
right. Well, again, thank you very much, Lindsay. I appreciate you. I know you're very busy there in Arizona. Again, where can they reach you? You got any website or email that they can reach out, Facebook group and stuff like that?
Yeah, so my website is functionalpelvis.com, as you've got up on the screen there, Mike. My Facebook group is called OTs for Pelvic Health. My podcast is called OTs for Pelvic Health. And you can email me anytime. I love talking about this stuff. And it's just my name, which is Lindsey Vestal at functionalpelvis.com.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much, Lindsay. I appreciate you. But before I let you go, ladies and gentlemen, always remember the word fast, FAST, letter F. Find people that will bring out the best in you, because you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with. So today I hang out with Lindsay. I feel like, I don't want to be like a pelvic floor lady, but, I feel like I learned a lot from Lindsay, right? Next letter is you got to learn how to take action. All this stuff that we're doing, it's not going to do me good. It's not even going to do Lindsay good if you don't take action. We're not getting paid to do all this stuff here, but it only changes your life if you take action. Okay, so take action. Reach out to her. Go to her website. Go to the functionalpelvis.com. Take action, because imperfect action beats perfect in action. If you're waiting for that perfect time, it's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what Lindsay did. She took action despite of her fear, despite of her imposter mentality, and she just kept pushing forward and dig deep within. I'm running out of English. And found that passion of serving and educating people. Okay. Next letter on the word fast is letter S. Is share and subscribe. The more shares, the better. Share this. Some other friend of yours, like another OT, will probably appreciate this. The only reason why Lindsay and I talk, because somebody shared, Tracy answered, and on our alternative career group, Tracy Sure, by the way, shout out to Tracy, pelvicguru.com. She's a physical therapist. And she said, hey, Michael, why don't you ask this person to reach out to Lindsay? She's an amazing OT. Maybe they could talk. And then now here we are interviewing this amazing lady named Lindsey Vestal of Functional Pelvis, right? So make sure you share and subscribe. Last but not the least on the word letter fast is letter T, is teach it. Why? Because when you hear it, you forget. When you see it, you remember. But when you're actually teaching it, you're actually understanding it more. And the more you teach it, the more you understand it. And that's what Lindsay is doing. She's teaching us how to be an amazing pelvic health practitioner as an occupational therapist. Again, if you need to learn more about being an OT in pelvic health practice, reach out to her. I'm running out. Functionalpelvis.com. Be awesome, be great, be excellent, and I'll see you around, my Facebook friends and YouTube and podcast friends.
HelloNote is a truly therapist-friendly practice management solution with integrated EMR that will enhance workflow, efficiency, and patient care. HelloNote reduces error and allows you to spend more time with your patients. It comes integrated with billing. Claims are generated once a note is completed. You can bill with one click and a patient portal, which streamlines the patient intake process. Beautifully engineered and cloud-based for easy accessibility, the software works on all platforms. You can access patient records from anywhere. We also offer 24/7 support. HelloNote is the practice management